And welcome everybody to the Prometheans. I'm
Hello,
Isran.
hello, again.
It's Isran and Radio Brain here for all of your needs of nightly suffering. So tonight, I think since we have been having all sorts of issues actually being able to try and watch the Joe Biden Townhall on ABC because they won't allow us to embed, and nobody wants to get struck by ABC. Cough, Crowder, cough. We've decided instead we're just going to watch some clips of it, which we seem to be able to embed and be able to follow through with. So, and we're going to watch a few clips. We're going to critique the clips, current events, that kind of, discuss some of the recent revelations, current events, all that fun shit. So, welcome. Thank you for joining us. May as well just get straight into it, huh?
Yeah, first one is Joe Biden pressed on why black voters should choose him.
Hold on, OBS just crapped itself for some reason. I can't figure out. Well, screw it. I'm just gonna have to live with it. All right. Okay, so here we are. I'll let you go ahead and handle most of the startup for that stuff.
Yeah, so you got the audio right for it?
Should, because it should coming through our standard audio feed. Wait, what the?
Okay.
Hold on.
Technical
what
difficulties.
On God's earth is wrong with this thing? Oh, God damn it. I am just having a wonderful afternoon with this. I screwed up the size of all of it. Oh, criminy.
Yeah, you can probably tell this is the
Holy
first time we've
shit.
done it this way.
Yeah, this is definitely the first time we've done it this way. Sorry, everyone. You have to suffer. Well, that's why you join us. For some stupid fucking reason.
Well, it's implied we're suffering already because we've got to watch.
Gotta watch Creepy
more
Joe.
Of the election lead up. Yeah. Oh god.
Oh god, I cannot wait till this whole fucking thing's over. I got to be completely honest. I love the election stuff myself from time to time, but this is holy crap.
Yeah, this one's driving me insane.
I'm restarting the fucking source. This is I it was a crapshoot, and I don't know how to reset it, and I'm not bothering to deal with it right now. Give me a moment, folks.
I mean, thematically, this is quite appropriate because we're building suspense here in a version of a shit show, which is pretty much what the elections are like, I think. I can't wait for it to be over. Oh, I just can't wait till come on. I want to know who wins.
You can't wait till it's over. Imagine how most of us here in the States feel.
Yeah, and also I want to know how it's going to pan out, because there's got to be a catch in here. You got the polls saying Biden's going to win. There's so many things that suggest Trump's going to win. Plus all this craziness about what could happen after. Will Trump accept the result? Will Joe even know what the result is?
Actually, I think that's the more good one. Will Joe even know? Will Joe know if he won or he lost? Who knows? Nobody knows. And that's the fun of it.
He'll come out to you have a Trump landslide win. He'll come out to do
I still don't think it'll happen.
A speech to concede it, and he'll start talking about how he's the new fucking president.
No. He'll talk about how he's the new senator from Delaware. Or he'll really go off the rails and say how he's the new senator from Scranton. I mean, I wasn't aware you were running for the state senate of Pennsylvania, and you wouldn't have been running for Scranton there. You would have been running for the county. But okay, Joe. Have fun with that. There's 67 or 69 counties in Pennsylvania. I can't remember. It's one of those two. All right, I fixed it. Not a complete and total incompetent, just mostly incompetent. All right, I'll let you handle the, well, of course, if I need to pause, I'll pause. But go ahead and we can get this wonderful little shit show started. Just as a note before we go into it, I did see this clip before. See, what we wanted to do was we wanted to watch the whole town hall, pause, live react, pause and react, completely blind because I hadn't seen the whole town hall. I'd only seen like this particular question. And I know that Joe basically insults the guy, for lack of better words, and just gives him a nothing answer.
Yeah.
So go ahead and hit play whenever you're ready.
Well, at least he didn't say, if you don't vote for me, you know the thing.
Oh, the guy brings that up. The guy brings that up.
Oh, yeah, forgot about that. Joe didn't say it, though.
No, he didn't say it this time, but I believe the guy did bring it up to him, which was just freaking hilarious. But anyway, I'll let you hit play.
Here we go.
If nobody's reporting... Nope. I was going to say, if nobody hears the audio, let us know. But I heard it, which means it should be coming through. So we should be gold.
Okay, here we go.
I'm Cedric Humphreys, a student from Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, progressive Democrat.
Don't jump, Cedric. You look like you're way up there.
I'll be okay. Thank you, George. And good evening, former Vice President Biden. Many people believe that the true swing demographic in this election will be black voters under the age of 30. Not because they'll be voting for Trump, but because they won't vote at all. I myself have had this exact same conflict. So my question for you then is, besides you ain't black, what do you have to say to young black voters who see voting for you as further participation in a system that continually fails to protect them?
Just pausing it there.
Yep.
Does Joe look really, really pissed off looking up at him? Like his beady little eyes are just staring at the guy.
Oh yeah, that's something I noticed. Joe looked offended
like,
about being challenged on his questionable, shall we say it, questionable comments.
Yeah. He does. He looks very cranky. And now he looks, where I've frozen it. Oh, hang on. You haven't got the same bit I have. He looks very lost. Like, oh dear, what do I do?
Yeah.
Oh, here he goes. I think it's going to be the Joe way.
Well, when you hit
Well, I say, first of all, as my buddy John Lewis said, it's a sacred opportunity and right to vote. You can make a difference.
Since someone pointed in, and yeah, everyone, this will kind of be a regular thing, but we'll try not to do this too much. I like the fact that in order to try and raise his chops, he brings up John Lewis. Now, he may have been friends with John Lewis or not. I don't actually know. But I know that was a very, very, very carefully planned name drop. And if let's play by their games. He just basically played the "I have a black friend" card.
I may be a plantation owner, but
I've got a black overseer. Yeah.
I know lots of black people.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. Wow. Okay, thanks for getting the struck there, buddy.
And vote, you can determine the outcome of this election. Not a joke. You can do that. And the next question is, am I worthy of your vote? Can I earn your vote? And the answer is, there's two things I think that I care, and I've demonstrated I care about my whole career. One is, in addition to dealing with a criminal justice system to make it fair and make it more decent, we have to be able to put black Americans in a position to be able to gain wealth, generate wealth. And so you look at...
Hang on a sec. In what sense does he mean put black people in a position to generate wealth?
See,
is he talking about the black person or the plantation owner? That wording does sound very...
Okay, that's...
Freudian slip.
I'm going to do something I don't like to do here, but I'm going to defend Joe Biden on this one. You're wrong, my dude. I think he just means I do think he means trying to help black Americans make more profitable and develop and better lives for themselves. But yeah, certainly you can certainly interpret it that way. Especially when you look at the history of the Democrat Party.
It's another one of those, they're saying one thing, but you kind of hear another, if you know what I mean. Anyway, let's go on.
Yep.
Look at what that entails. It entails everything from early education. That's why I'm supporting making sure that We in Title I schools, as you know, schools with the least tax base to be able to support their schools. I increased the funding for them from 15 to $45 billion. That allows every teacher in that school to make up to $60,000. And the problem now is they're leaving the schools. They're not there. We're short about 1.5 million teachers, 1.25 million teachers. Number two, every 3-, 4-, and 5-year-old will go to school, not daycare, school. And what all the great universities, including the one you've went to, in fact, talks about in the last 8 years, what's happened. What happens when you let them go to school, they make up rapidly whatever shortcoming they had in terms of their education prior to that. They have not heard as many words spoken, et cetera, et cetera. What happens is that the studies show that 58% will increase by 58% their chance of going all through 12.
I'm just going to pause for a moment. Am I the only one who was starting to get a little sleepy listening to that?
No, Joe is too. I'm struggling to follow it. I think he's just using, I was going to say buzzwords, but they're not even buzzwords. They're just like, he'd say these things like, whether you may or may not have gone to a university and may or may not have learnt a word, or if you've done this or that or anything. If you breathe or don't breathe. Stall.
Do you watch Andrew at Don't Walk Run Productions?
I've seen a few, I think.
His stuff's really good, and he's covered a lot of Biden, and he covered this. That's actually where I saw this. This is like 5 minutes of just this droning on. It's the same shit he did in the debate. It was just, here's numbers, here's statistics, here's fluff, here's well-rehearsed politispeak. No substantial answers, and I think we'll see that as we go on more.
12 years of school and
actually
going through successfully.
Yep.
Could that be because they're in coaching him to be prepared? They're actually struggling to get him to grasp and memorize any big subjects. That all they've been able to do is go, right, here's a list, dot points, boom. Okay, oh, thank God, we've got him to memorize that.
That could possibly be it. I'm also absolutely convinced he had an earpiece in on this, because this wasn't carefully controlled by the debate commission, as much as they're a fucking disaster. And ABC, particularly George Stephanopoulos, would probably, if it was completely legal under FCC, probably would have asked Joe to drop trow and blown him right on stage. So, George Stephanopoulos, while he's not the worst, he's still a dyed-in-the-wool Dem, and specifically he's a neoliberal Dem, so, which is what Joe is. So he's being rehearsed for sure. He's been rehearsed, and he's probably being backed by his people behind the stage and shit, trying to tell him what to say, and knowing that he can't come off too pre-planned sounding, because then it becomes very clear he's being directed. But,
Also for the ability to bring in social workers and school psychologists. We have one school psychologist in America now for every 1,507 kids. It should be 1 to 500, not just in schools that are poor, but in all schools. Because we learned that, for example, drug abuse doesn't cause mental illness. Mental illness causes drug abuse, the failure to get hold of people and deal with their anxieties. In addition to that, I provide for $70 billion.
Okay, I'm going to stop right there. That annoys the shit out of me.
Mental illness causes drug abuse? Yeah, I caught that too.
Yeah. Firstly, if you were to go into the whole science of the medicine of it, they tend to go hand in hand, and there's no real consensus about what causes what. And it sounds like a really feeble way to tie this into, he's going to start memeing about the drug war, which, I'm not going to agree or disagree with here, but it's a chronic oversimplification, and it sounds patronizing to people who might have, mental health problems or a drug abuse problem who are dealing with it. It's not it runs completely counter to it, and I think it's just a myth. It's just it is something. It bothers me because it is so patronizing to simplify it in that way, and it's also patronizing the guy he's talking to. Because what's he? I don't know. I don't know if he's got either problem or whatever, but I'm sure he doesn't know. I'm sure he does know a bit about it, and to tell you the truth, looking at the screen right now, he does not look impressed. He has a look on his face like, dude, I am so gonna vote for Trump.
Oh, so here's the problem, though. This guy who gets a complete nothing answer, he puts up on Twitter, vote for Biden, and he says in an interview afterwards, vote for Biden.
Ooh, you there?
Oh, shit, I muted, sorry. Here's the thing, though. This guy, he's got after this 7-minute emptiness, this guy is one of the people who's brought on, like they like to do, where they'll bring on people at the end on the live shows and stuff like that. The question askers or the people who ask major questions suddenly get a huge level of attention on social media and stuff like that. This gentleman right here, he tweets out something like, I know all the concerns, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, but you should still vote for Joe Biden. He gets absolutely snubbed by Joe Biden, and he still says vote Biden. Now, I don't know if that's how he genuinely feels or if he's afraid of the mob coming after him. Truth be told, I hope that it's how he genuinely feels, because I would really, really feel bad for the guy if he did it because he felt afraid of the mob. I mean, I would still think in that situation he's a moral coward, because he just got snubbed with a question he felt very important enough to ask to a presidential candidate to his face, and he gets snubbed. If I was asking a question to Biden or Trump and I didn't get an answer, that for me, that's kind of the end of the line. It's like, you don't have the balls to give me a straight answer. Fuck you. I'm not voting for you.
Maybe he's just looking disgruntled because he's actually an out of work actor, thinking, "Oh God, is this the only gig I can
Your audio's down, buddy."
Okay, hang on. Damn, that better?
A little bit.
Okay. That
potentially.
Okay, try again. That's the best I can do, I reckon.
I think that's the best you can do. I think that's the best we'll have to do. You might have to speak up.
Yeah, I'll just grab the mic closer. Okay, let's move on.
Yep.
$70 billion for HBCUs, for them to be able to have the wherewithal to do what other universities can do, because they don't have the kind of foundational support they need. And so that would allow them, for example, like we did in our administration, the president allowed me to go down and we awarded a cybersecurity laboratory, ability to compete for a cybersecurity laboratory. The federal government spends billions of dollars a year on universities because they're the best kept secret, or where most of the major inventions come out of. And so that school now will be able to produce young black women and men who are going to go into a field of the future that's burgeoning, cybersecurity. And that's what's going to help a great deal. In addition to that.
Okay, why did cybersecurity? Did I miss something there?
Everybody did.
Is it like, okay? Is this? I mean, what's it? It sounds like a reference, like cybersecurity. By the way, I'm about to talk about Russia, and we know that Joe has made these weird fluffs. You remember that video you sent me debunking Trump's supposed
racist remarks?
Yes, at the end of that video, I'm pretty sure it's that video, that guy brings up a little bit of a speech from Joe where he says that the white supremacists came out of the fields. And the guy in the video then makes the point that in Charlottesville, there's no fields nearby. And then points out the name of the guy that drove the car into the protesters. His name was Fields. You see what I'm getting at? It's like a word. He's just got the words up there, but he's pulling it out of his subconscious somehow. It's
I know exactly what you're talking about there, and it's absurd.
And he's doing it now. So he's brought up, he's brought up drugs and mental health. He just quick slot that in. It's like he's just pulling it out of his head. It's things like that make me wonder if he has got a microphone. Sorry, earpiece. I mean,
no, I think he does.
It is.
I think he does.
Yeah.
And I think Trump. I think it's possible Trump may have had one too during his town hall. I think it's less likely because I think Trump's character. He's kind of like the person who doesn't like, because Trump is the kind of person who doesn't like being told what to say by his handlers.
Yeah. Well, in Trump's case, it might have been Mike.
His diarrhea.
Trump might have had one in. He might have had one, and Mike Pence was on the line going, "Careful, Trump, calm down, don't shoot your mouth off, come on," and that may have been how it worked.
No, I think it might have been, get him. remember, Mike Pence is Trump's fluffer. He gets the big member ready for the scene.
Yeah. Lights up the stage with electricity first.
Oh yeah, you got to get that Deus Volt going. But no, I think what we're likely dealing with here with Biden is, it's entirely possible he's got his people telling him what to say, and he just doesn't. I like to think it's something that he doesn't know enough about, because these older politicians, honestly, most of them don't know the first fucking thing. Okay, most of them probably don't even know how to update their fucking antivirus software on their computers, okay? And that is the most bare bones Facebook grandma levels of cybersecurity.
Yeah. Well, I probably think cybersecurity is locking your phone up in a safe.
Depending on the safe, that actually could be a very good form of cybersecurity. Lead line.
Well, it's better than dropping it off at a laptop repair place.
And I think that has a great deal of. I think we went over that before, but I think that has a great deal to do with Hunter Biden, son of a wealthy senator, vice president, never really needed to work or learn how to do anything like this shit on his own. Hence why he uses an Apple product. I'll be the first. Okay, I will. You know that old phrase, "Let he who has sinned cast the first stone." I use iPhones. Okay, I'm pretty simple with it, and I can understand this. This is where I can understand this a little bit. Why do I use an iPhone? Because I'm not a phone techie. I don't fucking want to understand and know the complexities of my phone. My usage of my phone is simple, not as simple as a couple of my in particular, one of my very close friends, his use of his phone is even simpler than mine, and he has nothing on it that he worries about, so he doesn't even lock it. But I'm just not a phone techie. I'm a PC guy. I know far more about how to work and under the hood and such within my computer than I will ever know on my phone. And I don't want a complicated phone. I'm fine with something that's simple, straightforward, does what I want it to do. It's a phone. But in the case of computers, I get a little bit more antsy about that. And that's also why, someone like Hunter, he's not a computer guy. He's not a tech guy. He's not a gamer. He's not a amateur. He's not a hobbyist, white hat or something like that. He's
a crack guy.
Yeah, his hobby is crack and hookers. Now, I would honestly have to say, crack, really, dude? You couldn't be classy enough to use cocaine? So I can understand someone who just has no interest, desire, time, or need to be involved in computer maintenance. That said, why would you drop off a computer that has potentially damaging information on it instead of just chucking it out? What was my analogy? Why don't you just go ask Dad for one of those 12-gauge shotguns your dad claims, I go hunting with all the time?
No, he doesn't hunt with it. He just keeps the plantation in order.
No, he does go
I'm really
hunting.
going there, aren't I?
He does go hunting. When there's an escapee.
Well, his son's name is Hunter.
He does go hunting when there's an escapee.
Yes. Yeah.
Maybe that's why. Maybe that's why Joe
let's get back
suggested.
to it.
Maybe that's why Joe suggested in the potential of home invasion, just lean out the window and fire into the air. Maybe it's because it's something he's used to doing, just to keep everybody out in the field in line and remind them who has the guns. And maybe his recommendation to shoot in the leg is because it's the best way to trip them up when they're running.
Yeah, stops them running away a second time.
Man, we are so gonna get fucking bad. We are terrible people.
We do not endorse Joe Biden. Just like to remind people of that.
Yep. All right, I'm gonna hit play.
Go for it.
That young man about to graduate, or you graduated from school and you want to own your first home, or it's awful hard to get the money, depending on the background, what's your economic background is, to get a down payment. So we're going to guarantee first-term home buyers a $15,000 down payment for first-term home buyers. In addition to that, what all the studies now show, and I've been arguing this for a long time, is young black entrepreneurs are just as successful as white entrepreneurs or anyone else, given a shot. But you can't get the money.
What did he mean by give him a shot?
Oh, come on. You know what he meant.
I know. I can't be sure. I've just listened to a word salad at this point. I swear to God. It's just... What homeowners, entrepreneurs, what the studies? Oh my God! What? There's just this is what I said about the debate last week. I can't relate to what he's saying. I don't know what he's referring to. It's just mentioning all these like ideas, these memes of discourse. You know, not even buzzwords, as I said earlier. I cannot relate to it.
No, I can't either. It's some of it's just straight up beyond the pale, man.
Yeah. All right, let's try and power through this.
Yeah, let's power through, because you've got a few other clips lined up in the playlist, right?
The money. Where do you go to get the startup money? So what President Obama and I did, we had a program where we took $1.5 billion, and we invested it in all the SBAs around the country, in the state SBAs, Small Business Associations, and that generated $30 billion came off the sideline, because if you have a guarantee of $200,000 for your new startup enterprise, young entrepreneur, you're going to be able to attract, if it's government money as a guarantee, you'll be able to attract another $100,000. It generated $30 billion. Well, I'm changing that program, and I'll get this done without much trouble, I believe, in the Congress, from $1.5 billion to $30 billion to $30 billion. That'll take $300 billion off the sideline and grow, because and for example, if you, in fact, and I were the same age, and we split our differences and we were the same age, and we went to the same builder to buy us each the same home, but my home was in a white neighborhood on one side of a highway, and yours is in a black neighborhood. Same exact home. Your home will start off being valued 29% less than my home. Yet your insurance for that home will be higher. You'll be taxed more for it. We've got to end this. That's what got me involved in politics in the first place, a thing called redlining.
Fucking knew it. He was going to the fucking redlining myth. God damn him. Redlining is, 1, illegal, has been illegal for decades. 2, there is no hard evidence that it still persists. Do you know what redlining is?
Vaguely. Explain it for the sake of it.
Redlining is basically the idea that that lenders will charge higher interest rates, have artificially lower qualifications, higher qualification requirements for minorities. That's part of it. There's more to it than that as well. In a nutshell, it's discrimination in lending practices.
Yeah.
reason it doesn't exist anymore is because the entire process of qualification, especially from the major lenders, is algorithmic. In today's world, it is all conducted and carried out by computer algorithms. This is something I actually, this part of it is something I actually know a little bit about. Years ago, before we retired, my grandfather worked for a firm that was a contracted company that wrote and maintained the software used by 2 or 3 of the largest lending institutions in the United States. Citibank and Bank of America, I think, were 2 of their clients. And what that software did was automatically manage and monitor the current payment status of outstanding loans of all kinds, mortgages, business, fast cash loans, that kind of thing. And from that, I learned from him that a lot of the process for determining qualifications for mortgages, determining property values and assessments, determining the current state of reliable accreditation with an outstanding loan is entirely done by computer programming. There are in some cases simple, in other cases complex algorithms that handle all of this. There's no conscious, you've got some person sitting in an office looking at documents coming in, then going to Google Maps, seeing where the house is at, and then taking the names and going online and looking them up and saying, that's a black person wanting to buy a house in a black neighborhood. Denied. Or, we'll give it to you,
I would
here's
expect
a higher
that
rate.
If there is any truth to it, that it's probably coming from other factors, such as, like, for example, insurance on a house.
Oh yeah, insurance is entirely based on risk.
Yeah, exactly. But the risk might be the area, so it's not
Exactly.
It's not the race. It's the stats they look at. So
that's what I mean by it's
most likely.
It's almost completely algorithmic. Even if it's human calculation in the algorithm, it's still algorithmic. So you take, like he says, for example, buying a house in a black neighborhood, the same house. First of all, the odds of having the exact same house in 2 different neighborhoods, it's a bit odd, unless it's the same tract development company. In which case, that's the price differentials, the home value and price differentials between one neighborhood and another. They might be environmental, scenery, that kind of thing. They might be, which will contribute to a lot of things like cost of construction. Now I've actually been looking at some of this stuff a little bit of late, because I've been trying to learn a little bit more about how my home is valued. My home sits on a hill that drains like a fucking swamp in a part of the backyard. That impacts construction and maintenance on my property. And then of course, then there's things like what are the average crime rates in the area? An insurance agent goes to check out a property to determine the assessment of it. If they're driving through the neighborhood and they see boarded up fucking buildings and stuff like that, they're going to be immediately starting to wonder, okay, why are there so many businesses that are boarded up? Why are there so many buildings that are boarded up? Why are there fire gutted buildings that haven't been torn down yet? That, urban decay type stuff. If you're talking about like in a city or something, all of those things are going to negatively impact the value of real estate. Why does anybody... It's almost like Joe's trying to say that it's because of racism that real estate values in Detroit were down to hilarious lows back in the mid 2010s when Detroit collapsed.
2008.
Yeah, when Detroit
$10 houses.
Why was it? Because of racism? Redlining? No, it's because the city of Detroit collapsed. I hate the redlining argument. It's bullshit. Sorry, the rant over.
Well, I'll just throw my bit in, which is it's just more of the same thing. It's race baiting. It's pushing that agenda. It's basically just a more convoluted way of saying, if you don't vote for me, you know the thing. I reckon that's what it is. It's just the same as that. But yeah, let's play out. Oh my god, we're under the 2 minute to go mark.
Yep.
With this one, because this is the awful one, I reckon.
Yep. Ready,
Let's go.
steady, go.
We can change so much, that we can do so much to change the circumstances to give people a real opportunity.
Cedric, did you hear what you needed?
Oh, I'm sorry.
I was just saying, do you hear what you needed to hear?
I think so.
Okay.
Well, there's a lot more if you're going to hang.
That was weird.
Hmm.
That was weird. George stepped in, said, "Oh, did you hear what you needed to hear?"
Well, I mean,
It's kind of.
he's covering,
It's either-
trying to cover for Joe, and considering the fact Joe had been rambling on with absolute gibberish for the last 5 minutes.
Yes. Or maybe he's sort of thinking, hey, dude, you're about to put your foot in your mouth there somehow.
Mm-hmm.
That's, yeah, that was interesting.
That's why I said he's either
And I think
covering for Joe or getting sick of Joe rambling for 5 straight minutes.
Yeah. Now, if I'm not mistaken, this was one of the first questions. Because a lot of the others the clips of them are a lot shorter. So,
Okay.
about half to, yeah. But anyway, here we go. Let's get it over and done with.
Around afterwards.
Okay.
Let's get it.
No, but I really mean it. It is the key. Look, this is the way every other. How do most, like my dad, he lost his job up in Scranton. And it took him 3 years to be able, he moved down to Delaware, to Claymont, Delaware, a little steel town, and sent us home to our grandpop to live with him. We finally got back. We lived in apartments, became 6 and 8 housing much later. It wasn't, it was just normal apartments. But it took him 5 years to be able to buy a home. Well, we bought a 3-bedroom home with 4 kids and a grandpop living with us, but it accumulated wealth. You built up wealth. That's how middle-class folks make it. They build up wealth. Then he was able to borrow a little against that to be able to help us to get to school, those kinds of things. It's about accumulating wealth. And you're behind an 8 ball. The vast majority of people of color are behind an 8 ball. And it's the same way what's going on now with all this money that's been voted. What's happened? You go to the bank if you're a black businessman, and the president fired the only inspector general to oversee all this help coming from the Congress. And what happens? You go in and they say, do you have an account here? No. Do you have a credit card with this? No. Have you borrowed from us before? No. We bail these suckers out. They're not liable for any of the money.
I'm gonna pause this here because he's going on something that actually is very relevant to me. So, last year I applied to my major bank for a credit card. I've had an account with them for years, but I have no credit history. I had no credit history. Because of the fact my house was purchased through a private escrow with the trust of the previous owner, so I don't have an outstanding mortgage with a bank. My mortgage is held privately. So I don't own any other assets or anything else like that can be leveraged for that sort of thing. It was difficult for me to get a line of credit going. I wonder why. Oh, that's right, because when you don't have any assets, or you don't have any proof or ability to back up your trustworthiness, who's going to lend money to you if they don't know that you're not just going to be a disaster with it, right? It's their money, their risk.
Yeah. I wasn't thinking of it in that detail. I was actually starting to think that he reminds me of that episode of The Simpsons where Grandpa Simpson is talking about being a union buster.
I have not watched enough
Have you ever seen
to see that.
It's one of the older episodes where Monty Burns hires Grandpa Simpson to break up a strike, and he starts talking about how the trick is to tell him a story that goes nowhere, and he starts rambling. And eventually, one of the famous things is talking about tying an onion to his belt when traveling across America, because that was the fashion at the time. And I'm looking at Joe, just go, dude, what are you, union busting? What?
Oh, that's beautiful. I
God.
love it.
We can't bust heads like we used to.
Yeah, it's really
I
bonkers.
love it. That's
Anyway, let's
fantastic.
keep going. We're almost
Still
there.
won't rent it. They still won't lend it to you. We got to change that. It's about accumulating wealth.
Hi, everyone. George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC.
That was
The
it.
last
Oh,
few minutes
thank
are
God.
just fluff.
Yeah,
Alright,
so what do you
let's-
reckon for the next one?
I don't know. I thought you had a small battery lined up.
Yeah, we got him. So I reckon of the next. So either, what are we going to do? COVID-19
Mhm.
or foreign policy?
Oh, let's start with the foreign policy because the COVID shit. I don't know about you, but I think most people are sick and tired of hearing about how Joe keeps saying he would have done it better, he would have done it better, he would have done it better, and everything that when he's asked what his policy is, it's always pretty much exactly what the Trump administration's done.
Sir Mark Hoffman, Pennsylvania.
Okay, good. No ad. Thank God for that.
Oh, thank fuck.
You
All
seeing
right.
it?
Yeah,
Good.
I see it. We got it.
Awesome.
We're good.
Here we go.
Sir Mark Hoffman, Center Valley, Pennsylvania, conservative, who voted for Trump in 2016.
Welcome to Pennsylvania, Mr. Vice
Good
President.
to be back home. I'm from Pennsylvania.
Fuck you.
Yes, I know.
Fuck
Scranton,
you.
right?
Yep.
So, peace is breaking out all over the world. Our troops are coming home. Serbia is talking to Kosovo, and the Arabs and Israelis are talking peace, which I believe is a modern-day miracle, what's going on. Does President Trump's foreign policy deserve some credit?
A little, but not a whole lot. We find ourselves in a position where we're more isolated in the world than we've ever been. Our allies are our goat alone. America first has made America alone. You have Iran closer to having enough nuclear material to build a bomb. North Korea has more bombs.
I'm gonna stop him right there. You know how he likes to take the credit for pretty much everything the President Obama did? He acts it as we did, I did, all the time. When he was talking about the policy of the Obama administration, funny how he offloads the Iran nuclear situation onto Trump when it's his. If you listen to him, he was the actual brains behind the Obama administration, because he constantly talks about it as if it was him. Well then, guess what, Joe? Iran's nuclear materials situation is your fucking fault.
We know that all went sideways.
Yeah,
That's right.
Trump pulling us out of that fucking deal was a very good move, because that deal. Yeah, when it was initially happening and I didn't know too much about it, I was like, okay, maybe this isn't a good idea. But within about, 6 weeks of Trump ending the deal, oh, what's this? Iran has 80% of its centrifuges back online? What a miracle! They completely built from scratch enrichment centrifuges in 6 weeks. How about that, huh? Do you know what actually happened?
Yeah, they were building it up already. I know that.
Nope.
So
they never dismantled their centrifuges.
Well,
Or they weakened, or they simply brought their centrifuges down enough that they could quickly bring them back up online. They lied through the teeth to the Obama administration and got piles of fucking money for it.
Well, there was the possibility that they weren't even stopping. That's
also possible too. It's possible they never shut them down at all.
Yeah, I'm actually inclined. I was inclined to believe that at the time.
Yeah. I'll say this, as scary as cyber weapons can be, Stuxnet was a damn interesting thing because it fucked up a lot of their centrifuges.
Yeah.
But no, I mean, a little, but not all that much. It's like, no. One of the big things I was concerned about with Trump was his foreign policy. I was less concerned about foreign policy under him than I was under the bitch. And I'm still absolutely convinced that if the bitch had won in 2016, we would actually be at war right now with somebody.
Well, I have a different take on that. I'll tell you a little story. I remember election day in 2016. My girlfriend came home, and she'd been studying at university at the time. She came home, came out in the backyard to talk to me, and a bit flustered, and said, oh my god, what's going on? And she doesn't really follow politics at all if she can help it. But she basically said, oh my god, what's going on? Everyone at uni is talking about the end of the world. And I was like, what the hell are you talking about? And she said, the election. And I basically went, that, don't worry about. Look, if Trump's going to nuke or get us all killed, which is what a lot of people were actually saying, that people thought he was going to start World War II. I basically said, look, if Trump's going to get us killed, we've got at least 6 months to go, right? So look on the bright side. If Hillary had won, we'd be dead on Inauguration Day. And she actually, I was joking. I was being in dark humor mode because of the circumstances. And she actually just went, oh, okay, that's fine then. She walked off, and then she kind of turned back to me and gave this funny look with a hand on her hips going, woohoo, look at his wife. Hey. It's immediately shifted into the whole concern. But yeah, she was, but that was literally what I was thinking around the time. It was like coming up to, it's like, Trump's an unknown. I think I heard Chris Reagan say this. He said Trump was like a 50-50 chance, which is still better than the 100% chance of being at war that Hillary represented. And they were hawks. They were absolute hawks, and you knew it.
Yeah.
She even said it when she was trying to talk about bringing about world peace. She would start talking about extreme measures that would have provoked people into war and given a reason for them to invade somewhere else.
No, that's exactly it. And I'm, if I was to throw a dart at a board and guess what her first target would have been, well, aside from the fact we would have had a surge in Afghanistan for certain, the dart on the board would have landed on Syria.
Yeah. I reckon it would have been Trump Tower in New York, actually. It
would have been Syria in my opinion, in my view. But the point is one of the things I was apprehensive about was Trump's foreign policy, and when he started his initial chatter with the Clown King of Korea, I was a little unsettled by some of his commentary about the Clown King. But, well, see, I was, when he came back from meeting with the Clown King, I thought, there was a small part of me that thought, okay, is this going to be a fucking Neville Chamberlain peace in our time type thing? And a friend of mine and I had talked about it extensively, and a friend reminded me that Chamberlain's peace in our time, which has been historically slaughtered for. There is a little bit of wisdom, I think, in Chamberlain's thinking. Do I think that Chamberlain was a little too naive about Hitler? Yeah. But that's what I was afraid of with Trump, with him being a little too naive with King Clown. But what we ended up getting, I think, is similar to what ended up happening under Chamberlain, with the exception that the power balance is so dramatically different. It's no contest. And that is the conversation that my friend and I had, who, by the way, I think is one of our subscribers, had about it, was that Chamberlain's whole piece in our time was simply something to buy Britain time for war. I've heard the argument before. I'm not 100% sold on it, but it has some merits.
I disagree because of the way things turned out. So they had at least, I think, a year, maybe a year and a half before, invasion of Poland.
The thing that I think fucked it up is because they didn't they severely underestimated the readiness of the Wehrmacht.
Yeah, no, I don't. I think there's a lot more to the backdrop of that, and a big difference is there was a lot of disagreement within the UK and the US, even in France, about whether or not to what to make of Hitler, because there were rising fascist trends within those countries.
There was
popping up, and
there's also something else. There's also something else that happened.
I'm still going to subscribe to the view that they were excruciatingly naive.
And this is where the naivety comes in, and that this is something else that happened that I don't think anyone in the Western Allies really thought was going to happen. Remember what happens about 2 weeks into the invasion of Poland? Who invades from the east?
Russia. No, sorry. What am I saying?
Soviet Union.
No, they didn't.
About 2
Did
weeks
they?
after,
hang on.
about 2 weeks into the Battle of Poland, the Soviet Union invades from the east. That's the part that fucks things bad. If the Soviets hadn't invaded Poland, it's very likely the Poles would have been able to hold off long enough for the British expeditionary forces that were beginning to land and form in in France, along with to actually manage to push the fucking French to invade the Rhineland. The Rhineland was borderline undefended because Germany had to put everything she had into the invasion of Poland. And then, of course, you fast forward a year through the phony war and stuff. There was just a cavalcade of fuck-ups from both the Germans and the Allies that led to the Ardennes nightmare that led to the fall of France.
Yeah.
I still say this geopolitically. I do think that there's some merit that geopolitically, while Chamberlain was still naive, he was. He often gets painted as having sold the soul of Western Europe for a piece of paper. I don't think that's a fair characterization of Chamberlain. And part of the reason why I can say this is because what was one of the first things he did, especially after the Battle of France started? He resigned.
Well, he certainly had to by that stage.
He recognized that he recognized that this was an unsustainable government.
Yeah, but he should have. I don't know. I don't think that indicates anything about his first intentions. I mean, I'm still going to run with the idea. He was just wrong. It was a false hope. And people saw it coming. It was basically a choice between do what he had, find some kind of a negotiation over the Sudetenland and Czechoslovakia as a whole, or go to war when Britain is by no means prepared. Now, the naivety comes from the fact that this is where the underestimation comes from. I do think that in 1938, the British were more prepared for war than the Germans were, but nobody knew how prepared the Germans were. The Abwehr had actually been up until the war actually starts. The Abwehr, the German intelligence, had actually been pretty good at keeping things under lock and key. So do you see that as a parallel to the Korea situation?
Because a lot of people, when you stop and think about the typical historical narrative for Chamberlain's meeting in Berlin, you can walk away from it as, if you just look at, you take the typical narrative that's passed down for the last 80 years, you can walk away from it and think Trump coming back from Pyongyang, or from the DMZ actually, and acting, and talking up all high and positive about the Clown King as a peace in our time sort of moment. But that was what, the first year or so in the Trump's administration. We are 3 years later, and okay, well, to be fair, the Clown King I'm pretty sure he's a vegetable right now, and it's his emaciated looking psychopathic sister who's running shit. The North Koreans they're not saber rattling like they usually do. And I don't know if it's because to the public face of the press, Trump was doing his usual shtick of, oh, he's great, I enjoyed him, he was fun to talk with, that kind of thing. Like Trump tends to be. Trump pumps people up all the time.
But it wasn't the only thing going on. I think that I'd have to disagree on the fact that there's a major difference in terms of the fact that, like Trump didn't approach it for appeasement. He approached it with a very
that's what I'm saying.
stern hand.
Well, kind of what I'm trying to say is,
I have a big button.
And what I'm trying to say is, like with the Chamberlain comparison, is I don't buy entirely into the argument that Chamberlain was appeasing.
Yeah.
I think that he was being. I think that he was being naive, but I think that he was still thinking in the term of realpolitik.
Yeah, I don't know.
It's just Chamberlain wasn't very good at it. One of the best players of realpolitik of the period, as much as I loathe to say it, was FDR. And definitely Stalin. Stalin had a handle of realpolitik that very few people do. And better than Churchill had a better handle of it than Chamberlain did, but Churchill was also very, very much the, as he's nicknamed, a bulldog.
Yeah. Yeah, I reckon it's a bit too in-depth to go into.
Yeah, that's something we can talk about later. It's just foreign policy. There were some real concerns about Trump's foreign policy for some people. I had some concerns myself. But ultimately, if you look at all of the shit the guy's been saying for over 30 years, and there's a clip that was going around with an interview he had with Larry King, I think back in like the early 90s. He says the same shit in that interview that he says today. He's been consistent. And foreign policy is one of the things he's been consistent on for decades. Biden, flip-flop. Obama, flip-flop. Biden and Obama comes in saying, we're going to end the wars. We're going to end the wars. And what do? The second surge in Afghanistan, third or fourth or fifth or 11th, I don't fucking know, in Iraq. Starts saber-rattling to try to get things going to invade Syria. Quite possibly provided intelligence to the rebels to the access to the chemical weapons that I think that they were the ones who used. And, of course, remember the whole Libya nightmare. Flip-flops, because they never had a fucking principle on this shit anyway. Anyway,
well, actually, the alternative, just one quick thing to say there, an alternative trend interpretation that I've often thought of is it's not them being, like any individual being the flip-flop. It's the fact that you've got a whole conglomerate of different politicians with different interests, power playing, and at different points, different things come to the fore. But Trump is just one guy. Not just that. He's just one guy who's walked in, and people who have supported him that he's working with generally agree with that. So this might be just another moment revealing the sort of corrupt swamp culture of entrenched politics. They're not. It's another desperate attempt to sort of say, discredit Trump that's going to backfire, because I think a lot of people know that. I know people who hate Trump who say, well, there's one good thing is he's anti-war and he's not sending the troops away all the time.
Yeah, that's something about Trump I absolutely believe to be consistently true, that he is anti-war. And he's been anti-war for 40 plus years. And that's something I am. I'm very much anti-war. I don't want us to go to war unless absolutely necessary.
Yeah.
War is diplomacy through other means, but it ought to be the last means of diplomacy. Because war is using force to make somebody else do what you want them to do. And if you can't make them do what you want them to do through other means, this is the last means you have available. So, all right, I'm going to hit play on this.
Oh, go for it.
bombs and missiles available to it. We find ourselves where our NATO allies are publicly saying they can't count on us. We're in a situation as well where in the Far East we find ourselves in the Western Pacific where we're isolated as well. You have Japan and South Korea at odds with one another. China is making moves. So I would say we find ourselves less secure than we've been. I do compliment the president on the deal with Israel recently, but if you take a look, we're not very well trusted around the world. When 17 major nations in the world were.
Well, Joe, why aren't you trusted around the world?
Gee, I wonder why.
Does this have anything to do with a lot of invasions, maybe the CIA, and so on? And more recently, your promise in 2008 that you'd pull out, which you didn't do. And he must have known. They must, because you can't just pull out of that situation, overnight. You can't just say, "Oh, we're pulling out." It's got to be done in the right way, and they've totally fluffed that.
Yeah.
And they must have, they must have known going in. There's no way that, like Barack Obama could have been.
Yeah, there's no way
naive.
Joe and Barack did not know because they were senators.
Yeah,
they
no,
were
Barack might have. Barack might, because Barack
he
wasn't. He was fairly wet behind the ears. He might have. And the other thing is, Barack seemed to have a plan. That's something I noticed when he first came in. He seemed to be very clear cut about what he wanted, where he was going, and what was going on. But you watch him over the 8 years through when he's talking to the press and giving interviews. You watch it. He goes from being very clear cut, very well spoken, very like he knows exactly what he's going to say. And over those years, it just dribbles away. And if you go watch him in 2014, 15, he stumbles and stutters. And you can tell that he's trying to think through things. You know why? Because this system has got to him. Now, I don't know if he's good or bad behind it all in the first place, but I can clearly see there's an influence coming through. But in Joe's case, he must have known it. He must have known the game all along. I mean, he's had so much experience with politics, and he's been through all sorts of situations, including being in politics with the first Iraq War, second Iraq War, dealing with the what was going on in the 80s, the Iran-Contra affair popped up. So that was involved. That was part of a whole tapestry of stuff. Then he was around with. He was a senator when the Vietnam War was wrapping up. He started in 72. That's when they first started pulling out. 3 years of pulling out. He must have known it. And he must have known how much of a shit show that was at the end anyway, because they did fluff it at the end. What else happened? You had all sorts going on.
In 83, there was the invasion of Grenada, of Grenada. But that went absolutely as planned, within one or two small little hiccups, but those were tactical hiccups.
Yeah, I think someone got a fucking paper cut or something. That was an absolute.
There were a few casualties.
Walkover. Was there?
Yeah, my uncle landed on Grenada. He was in Marine Recon, and
wasn't that the one that only took like 2 days or something?
Yeah, I think it was like 3 or 4, and there were a couple of casualties, and like there was a whole like Army Ranger team that they helicopter jumped off the coast to use rubber dinghies to get to shore, and they kind of disappeared. They got swept away in the tides and shit.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, the list does go on, but I'm ranting now. I can't even remember.
No, you're right.
I've just gone off. I've just let out my.
I think what you're saying is Joe's been in politics, U.S. politics, for so fucking long, specifically the Senate for so goddamn long. He knows how the machine works.
Yeah.
Which is why I don't believe him when he talks about our foreign policy. He is a neoliberal. He is a globalist liberal type, globalist lefty who does not. He says one thing and does the other.
Yeah. Oh, that's right. He was talking about why the world doesn't trust him, and it's like after all that, you Joe, you came in with Barack Obama, and you were meant to be this giant FU to the war on terror, George W. Bush era of American interventionism going to its peak, and these guys promised something, and it's like, yeah, okay, you promised it, and you spent 8 years fucking up, and then you threw in you let Hillary get involved with Libya, and spun off like 3 or 4 other crisis situations.
I will give you one better, and our viewers our audience can look at this too. You want to see a perfect example of just of why no one in their right fucking mind should trust Joe Biden on foreign policy? Here it is in one picture. There he is on the far right, standing as George W. Bush signs the Senate authorization to invade Iraq in 2003.
Yeah.
Yep. Joe Biden on the far right there voted, was one of
And he
77 senators voted for this, which means there's no way in hell this was Republicans only. This was a completely bipartisan. And of course, there's the despicable corpse of a creature called John McCain standing to the left and behind the president.
Ugh, disgusting. Mm-hmm. Look at the look on Joe's face, like smugly pleased with himself.
So when I hear Joe Biden say, "Oh, the world doesn't trust us anymore," the world doesn't trust us anymore not because of fucking Trump. The world doesn't trust us anymore because of Obama, Bush, and to an extent Clinton.
Yeah.
So no,
but I reckon,
like
especially, I think especially Obama and Biden's presidency and vice presidency. That was the one. That's like if Donald Trump had run in 2008, saying, "Right, I don't like this war on terror shit," it wouldn't have. No one would have cared that much. In fact, he did start running actually that year, but he dropped out as he's done before, and it didn't go anywhere. But this time, when he put his foot in, put his toe in the water to test it, and said all that stuff. Oh look, it got a lot of traction.
God, even Joe Lieberman is standing there. That should tell you how absolutely, huh?
That's where's he? He's the Illinois guy, isn't he?
Was, I think. Joe Lieberman's the one standing right behind the president with the orange or yellow or gold tie.
Is he the one that is been in a few Batman films?
I wasn't aware of that.
No, it's not actually. I'm thinking of someone else.
Joe Lieberman is a historically a fairly old school moderate Democrat.
Yeah,
very much throughout most of his career, fairly much an anti-war Democrat, and he fucking voted for this shit. I'm still of the mind the invasion of Iraq was a absolute. Oh, God damn it! It was an absolute mistake. Isn't a strong enough word for it. I believe we were sold a fucking lie.
We were sold a fucking lie, and it's provable.
It wasn't until, what, 2010, 2011 that we actually found usable or evidence of usable chemical weapons through the forms of already outdating, decaying, and leaking artillery shells and tank ammunition.
Yeah. Everyone knew it at the time. Well, not everyone, but I swear to God, you could see it in the media. There were like 2 streams of media. There was a whole bunch of stuff. It's fake, it's fake, it's fake. There's no proof. People are complaining, but then like everything from CNN to Fox is going about. Oh no, that Colin Powell report is absolutely true.
Yeah, I'll say this much though. At least
I got called it. That's when I first started getting called a conspiracy theorist on a regular basis, and I wasn't the only one either.
No, you weren't.
Yeah.
I've been called it myself over the period. Oh, Jesus Christ. Anyway, let's continue and hear the rest of this absolute trash answer.
in the world were asked.
Actually, just before we go, once again, the guy asking the question has a very disappointed look on his face.
Yeah, because Joe's giving
very, yeah.
I don't know about this guy's, if this guy's been interviewed or such afterwards. My hope is that, because, you know, when he was introduced, he was said that he had voted for President Trump in 2016. And he had his question. It didn't say that he was not going to vote for President Trump this time. Didn't say he's undecided this time. It just said he has a question for the former vice president. And by the way, I'm actually glad. For me, for a personal point of pride, I'm glad that Biden did this in Pennsylvania. And specifically, I think did he do this in Harrisburg? If he did this in Harrisburg, he actually did it. He actually did that in the town of my birth. And the town I grew up in, Carlisle, is not but, I don't know, 20 minutes away down the freeway. So, this is my neck of the woods from when I was, grew up. And that's why I get so fucking pissy when he says, oh, I'm from Scranton. It's like I think I said during the debate, it's his attempt to try and claim, oh, look at my working class iron belt chops. It's like, no, you have none of those things, Joe. You were born in the state of Pennsylvania. You were born in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, and that's why I regularly say, and I should actually resume saying it, on behalf of the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, I apologize for Joe Biden. And you left at 10. You were a child. You were a 4th or 5th grader. You have no relative relationship to the people of Pennsylvania. I left at 18 years old. I don't have all that much myself, but I have far greater relative relationship with working with people in Pennsylvania, particularly Carlisle. A lot of the people who still go to school there, who are still, live in the town and such, I went to school with them. I've kept in contact with a few fellow Carlisleans and such over the years. Hell, there was a bit for me a few months ago where I was bawling my eyes out when I learned that the man who inspired me to teach passed away before I ever got to tell him that. He was a mentor to me, and I never got the chance to tell him how much he meant to me before I found out he died. And it broke my heart when I was reading some of the articles and stuff from fellow classmates of mine and reading their words. Now, I have greater fucking relation to Pennsylvania than Biden will ever have. He is trying to pretend to be a fucking carpetbagger to a state he has no authority to. The 12 years I've lived in California, I toyed around with the idea just for shits and giggles with friends and stuff about maybe you start looking to run for office and such when I start to come of age for it. But I've decided I'm never going to I would never run for office in the state of California because I don't feel like I would deserve it. I feel like I would be a carpetbagger. If I ever moved back to Pennsylvania, yeah, I'd maybe consider running for office there because that's home. So when I hear Joe go on and on about, oh, I'm from Scranton, it's like, no, you aren't. You're 85 million years old. You've lived all except 10 years of that in the state of Delaware. Fuck you. Sorry, rant over.
Speak, yeah.
I'm
That's quite a lot on that.
I'm a very big state sovereign advocate, and I love my home state. Sometimes I'll refer to Pennsylvania as my homeland.
Yeah. Oh, kind of is.
Well, and it's a state It's a state steeped in great history. 2016 at the night of the election, I'd said to a couple of friends who were still up, I'd said when I stayed on to watch the election results until Pennsylvania called in. When Pennsylvania called in for Trump, I came out and said, the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania once again saves the Union.
Yeah. All right, let's get on with it.
Who's a better leader, and the president came in behind both the national survey, international survey, both behind Putin as well as Xi. And look what Putin's doing. You have bounties on American military's heads in Afghanistan. There are more people there now, by the way, than when we left in Afghanistan. And we find ourselves in a situation where he's talked to Putin 6 times, hadn't said a word to him. And NATO is on the risk of beginning to crack because they doubt our concern, whether we're there. You see what's happening in everything from Belarus to Poland to Hungary, and the rise of totalitarian regimes in the world, and as well as this president embraces all the thugs in the world. I mean, he's best friends with the leader of North Korea, sending love letters. He doesn't take on Putin in any way, and he is just he's learned the art of the steal from the art of the deal by Xi in China. So I would respectfully suggest, no, there is no plan, no coherent plan for foreign policy. You know, we've always ruled, we've been most effective as a world leader, in my humble opinion, not just by the exercise of our power, the most powerful nation in the world, but the power of our example. That's what's led the rest of the world to follow us on almost everything. He's pulled out of almost every international organization. He gets laughed at when he goes to the, literally, not figuratively, when he goes to the United Nations. I mean, it's just not, it's not a...
I gotta pause there for only for 2 quick jokes. He's pulled out of just about every international organization.
You're not
Please,
muted
somebody
yet,
explain
no?
to me. Somebody explain to me how that's a bad thing. And whenever he goes to the United Nations, he's laughed at.
Yep, you're muted.
Oh, shit. Oh, fucking hell. I just paused it for a moment there because I had 2 quick questions to ask that are kind of joking. He says he's pulled out of just about every international organization. Okay, somebody please, in chat or whatever, tell me, how is that a bad thing? Second question. You know, Biden says whenever he goes to the United Nations, he's laughed at. Once again, how is that a bad thing? Isn't it the United Nations that, oh, we're sorry, we have to sit there and watch the genocide?
Well,
That's
I
the
think
blue
that's a bit
helmet policy, isn't
unfair
it?
because you can't expect as much from that. I think that the United Nations exists in a particular sort of situation, which is that it's bringing together a world full of countries that I can get along anyway. So I don't expect too much, but I'd be wondering what they'd be laughing at if Joe became president.
Well, there's that too, but they'd be laughing because the other members of the Security Council, the permanent members, particularly China and Russia, would be able to just fucking run roughshod over the United States. Everything in the UN happens based on the permanent seats of the Security Council, which is why a strong U.S. is important for the Security Council.
Yes, because France isn't going to do it.
Britain doesn't have the will or the strength anymore. And they don't have the strength because they don't have the will. So, yeah. You know how, like, the League of Nations failed because the United States wouldn't join it, right? The UN is, well, it's
I would go
one of the
one
biggest
step further
reasons.
with that, which is it was ineptly created
Of
from
course.
a set of rules that predated
because Wilson was a crazy person. But yes.
No, not just that. It wasn't. It was based on. I'm a bit rougher now, but it's basically based on a sense of nationhood and interrelations between countries that was around when Napoleon was.
It comes out of the concert. It comes out of the concert of Europe.
Yeah, and it's not. It was completely inept. I would say too. It's like over the years with the UN, I think that they've massively fucked up. But then a lot of the time, it'd be better to have a UN. To me, it's a case of which type of UN, and there's many things you could go into, but it's not. It sounds odd for Joe to say. As I said, the question is who really would be.
Here's my problem with the UN. I think the UN is almost as ineptly created as the League of Nations was. Now, for different reasons and different ideological goals, of course, because like we said, the League of Nations was created kind of in the model of the Concert of Europe. The United Nations was created in an almost similar ineptitude of its formation and structure. I think like one of the things that might potentially be helpful to reforming the UN would be actual representative membership. And how we determine that representation. How we determine that representation could be done in different ways.
Yeah.
And I don't think it should be population based at all.
Yeah, I think it. I don't know. This is a big subject, but I think there's a massive flaw in it, and you've already mentioned it. It's the Security Council. It's bound to be out of date.
It
may have been useful in the 50s, but it's not now.
Useful in the Cold War, yes, because it helped maintain the status quo between the Soviet Union and the United States. I actually think the single biggest mistake was adding China as the People's Republic of China as a permanent member of the Security Council. I don't remember when that happened. I don't remember if that happened after the dissolution of the Soviet Union or before. But it's still, I think that was one of the most critical mistakes. And I would say this: if the United States pulled out of the United Nations, I think, will collapse. Not simply because of the sheer amount of money the United States spends to finance UN projects, but I think that the geopolitical side of it, the actual power, the power projection, force multiplication the UN has, will collapse. You know, it's the same kind of thing like, you know, you're looking at the whole Brexit situation where one of the pressing issues of getting Britain out was you had more and more of the Continentals screaming about forming a European army, a European military, a European bloc.
Yeah.
And pulling Britain out cripples that progress. Yeah, sure, they're still going to go ahead and do it, but it's going to be a hell of a lot fucking weaker and ineffective without the economic might of Britain and without the strength of her navy. The French and German navies are short shit compared to the Royal Navy. Now, the Royal Navy is certainly nothing even close to the U.S. Navy, and I'm not sure, but in terms of actual power projection, it's probably either right behind or right above the Russian Navy. But for Europe, having access to Britain's economic and military assets is vital. So, yeah. Anyway, I know we've gone on really long with this one, so we've only got 20 seconds left. I will shut the fuck up.
About the president per se, it's about the nation and the lack of respect that's shown to us.
Hi, everyone.
Well, for what that was worth. Oh, God damn it.
Keep in mind, you probably just said more about actually both of us, mainly you, but in our ranting about this, we've said more about the world than he said at all in that answer.
I'd say it all in the last 6 months.
Malarkey. That's his contribution.
The same shit over and over and over and over and over again. So what's our next clip up? I guess we could hit the COVID shit if you want.
Yeah, I've only got time for about one more. So actually got 3. So you got COVID-19, tax cuts for the middle class, and 94 crime bill.
Ooh, okay. I think COVID should be off the table because we had quite a bit of that shit with the debate. So I would say dealer's choice, my friend. What do you want to do? Tax cuts or 94 crime bill?
Yeah. I'm going the crime bill, I reckon. I don't know. Toss it.
Well, we've got, not counting me, and I think we automatically count as viewers, we've got 2 other viewers in the audience. What do you guys think? Audience, crime bill or tax cuts? 30 seconds.
See, one's going to be fiery, one's going to be topical.
15 seconds. 3, 2, 1. All right, Radio Brains, your call.
Crime bill. I can't help myself.
Okay, let's have some fun.
Okay.
I'm gonna while this one starts up, I'm gonna step away for a few moments. I need a bio break, but I'll be able to hear it. So.
Okay.
For Mark Hoffman, Center Valley, Pennsylvania, conservative, who voted for Trump in 2016.
Welcome to Pennsylvania, Mr. Vice President.
Oh, hang on a sec. Sorry, I fired up the wrong clip. Damn it. Well, there's a cock up and a half. Yep, there's the right one.
Angelica Policaro. No, not at all. Garnet Valley, Pennsylvania, Republican who voted for President Trump last time.
Thank you, George. Thank you, Vice President Biden. Nice to meet you. What's your view?
I was going to play that back. Did he?
No,
Another
not at all.
Trump
Garnet Valley,
voter?
Pennsylvania, Republican who voted for President Trump last time.
Thank you, George.
Yes. Why do I get the impression that they're trying to wheel out as many ex-Trump voters as possible? Sorry, not ex, but people who voted for Trump before. This is another play on it's just a tactic. That's all it is. They are desperately trying to project the notion that Biden is somehow going to turn people away from Trump, which I'm very cynical of.
George. Thank you, Vice President Biden. Nice to meet you. What's your view on the crime bill that you wrote in 1994, which showed prejudice against minorities? Where do you stand today on that?
Well, first of all, things have changed drastically. That crime bill went and voted. The Black Caucus voted for it. Every black mayor supported it across the board. And it didn't. The crime bill itself did not have mandatory sentences except for two things. But it had 3 strikes and you're out, which I voted against in the crime bill. But it had a lot of other things in it that turned out to be both bad and good. I wrote the Violence Against Women Act. That was part of it. The assault weapons ban and other things that were good. What I was against was giving states more money for prison systems that they could build, state prison systems. And you have 93 out of every 100 people in jail now is in a state prison, not in a federal prison, because they built more prisons. I also wrote into that bill a thing called drug courts. I don't believe anybody should be going to jail for drug use. They should be going into mandatory rehabilitation. We should be building rehab centers to have these people housed. We should wipe out, we should decriminalize marijuana, wipe out the record so you can actually say and honor.
Hold on, I want to pause. I just got back and I wanted to pause because there was something he said there that I heard as I was coming back in that it sounded to me like he was trying to move towards the direction of federal of federal centralized power over things. You know, what was it he said there? Something percentage of people are in state prisons. Do you want to back it up like
I can't remember where it was. I thought you'd know.
Oh, okay. If you want to back it up all the way there.
In the crime bill, but it had a lot of other things in it, giving states more money for prison systems that they could build, state prison systems. And you have 93 out of every 100 people in jail now is in a state prison, not in a federal prison, because they built more prisons. I also wrote into that bill, people in jail now is in a state.
There it is. Okay.
I just played
state prison systems.
Yeah, go ahead.
And you have 93 out of every 100 people in jail now is in a state prison, not in a federal prison, because they built more prisons. I also wrote into that bill a thing called drug courts. I don't believe anybody should be.
Okay, maybe I mistook it. I think he might have been talking about because isn't he trying to defend his position on the 94 crime bill? Hello?
Yep.
Okay, so he's trying to defend his position. Okay, if he's defending his position and stating that more people who are prisoners are in state prisons, okay, then my concerns kind of go away, because I thought he was coming off as saying that, well, no, we need to have federal power over the state prisons, and I'm sitting there going, no, that's not how federalism works. You know, it kind of goes back to that whole thing where he's talked about before. You notice how he fucking backed up on it with the whole, I will implement a national mask mandate. You don't have that power, Joe. You just don't have that power. Right or wrong, good or bad, you don't have that power. Uh-oh. All right, ladies and gentlemen, Radio Brain had to step away for a bit. You're going to have to put up with me. I will not interrupt as much as I can.
Going to jail for drug use. They should be going into mandatory rehabilitation. We should be building rehab centers to have these people housed. We should wipe out, we should decriminalize marijuana, wipe out the record so you can actually say in honesty, you ever been arrested for anything? You can say no, because we're going to pass a law saying there is no background that you have to reveal relative to the use of marijuana. And so there's a lot of things, but in addition to that, we got to change the system. I joined with a group of people in the House to provide for changing the system from punishment to rehabilitation, along with a guy named Arlen.
This is a policy I don't disagree with, as far as treating like serious drug addiction and such and so forth. I think we are throwing far too many people who into prison and jails who their quote-unquote crime is possession and usage of a drug. And actually, if I recall correctly, the laws in a lot of places, and I don't think at the federal level, can really punish you for the usage, but you get charged and tried on possession. Anyone who may have some more information or experience with this sort of thing, let me know. I've never had any of these sorts of issues before. But if we're going to be looking at trying to deal with this in terms of a rehabilitation and treatment process, sure. But I don't think that's something the government should be doing. I still think that's free market. Throwing people in prison for drug possession or drug usage, no, that's pretty fucked up. Because at the end of the day, whatever the causes are that lead someone down the path of addiction, it's still something that person made as a conscious decision. With those rarity exceptions where they were held down, like in the case of like human trafficking, where the victims of it are physically forcibly drugged and acquire an addiction to it. That's of course very different. But most people, they actively, consciously make the decision, whether it's a well thought out, well educated, properly informed, etc. Whatever, it is still a decision carried out by a free thinking person. Oh, son of a bitch, am I muted?
You there?
Fucking hell, I've been muted for over 3 minutes. God damn it!
Damn it.
That's it. I'm turning off streamer mode on Discord because I need to be able to hear it when I hit the fucking mute button. I am so sorry, everybody. I had said, what I was saying for the last 3 fucking minutes was, so Joe's talking about, I'm going to back it up 10 seconds. Here we go.
System. I joined with a group of people in the House to provide for changing the system from punishment to rehabilitation, along with a guy named Arlen Specter, who you may...
Okay, that's where I cut him off. And first of all, Arlen Specter can go die in a fire for all I care. But no, I agree with Joe on drug rehabilitation. The problem I have is what he's doing is he's suggesting that the federal government should have the power over the states to manage and control drug rehabilitation programs and state laws and other such things. It's the same way it goes about, the federal government will create a policy, a program that provides money to the states for something, and it will have a nice little asterisk at the end of it that goes, in order to get this money, the state has to do X, Y, Z. I know there's a term for it. I don't remember what it's called, but it's something that I think needs to be closed down. That loop, that little hole needs to be closed. But anyway, a lot of the drug issues I've seen are, possession, consumption. I don't know if consumption itself is actually a criminal offense, but I know possession is. That's what gets a lot of addicts and stuff thrown into the jails and the prisons. And I think that's ridiculous. The rehabilitation... He's saying mandatory rehabilitation. I disagree. Voluntary rehabilitation. Because some addicts don't want to get better. And this goes back to the situation of, well, what if they rob people or something like that? How do we treat that problem? It's like, Well, you punish them for the crime they committed. Yeah, sure, there's the extenuating circumstances of their addiction that potentially led them down that path. But the action of the decision of all except, in the cases of human trafficking victims who are forcibly drugged and acquire an addiction, it's a conscious decision made of one's own free will. Terrible as it is, ill-informed as it might be, as peer pressured as it might be. What's a good example? Someone who enjoys his whiskey and his vodka quite a little bit. If I'm out at a bar or if I'm out with friends and such, and I decide not to have a drink, I make the conscious decision to not have a drink. If my friends say, "Hey, Matt, hey, Isa, have a drink," that kind of thing. If I give into it, I made the choice to give into it and have the drink. Same goes for anything else. Friends say, "Hey, join us for a game." It's like, all right, fine. I make the conscious decision of stopping what I'm doing and joining my friends in a game. It's one of the things I think, things like mandatory rehab take away personal responsibility. Because the reason why I think it takes away the personal responsibility is because of the mandatory. There is force. There is the monopoly of force behind your rehab. Personal responsibility would dictate that you decide to do it yourself. My father's father became, who was a rampant alcoholic, got clean because he made the conscious choice to put the bottle down. And he spent the rest of his days free of alcohol. My father, who was a raging alcoholic and suicidal depressant, wasn't able to did not make those decisions. He tried, he never put forward enough willpower to do it. Whether it was because he always succumbed to his wants, he succumbed to the addictions, I don't know. But mandatory treatment would not have helped him. I think Joe's heart's in the right place here. We got to do everything we can to help people with serious drug and alcohol and substance addictions. Absolutely. Completely on board with it. I just don't think that federal power is the way to do it. Rant over. Sorry, guys.
I remember wrote the Second Chance Act.
But in the meantime, an awful lot of people were jailed for minor drug crimes after the
Exactly right.
Was it a mistake to support it?
Yes, it was. But here's where the mistake came. The mistake came in terms of what the states did locally. What we did federally, we said...
Oh, no. He can eat it on that one. He is trying to pass the buck of responsibility onto somebody else. That's despicable.
It was, and you remember, George, it was all about the same time for the same crime. What I had done as chairman of the Judiciary Committee, took the 10 circuit courts of appeals, took some really brilliant lawyers working for me in judiciary. We did a...
Hang on. Is he actually passing the buck there? Because to tell you the truth, this sounds like one of the only moments that where I've heard him say something that actually sounds like a proper description, not necessarily correct, but a proper description of something that's gone on. So he just alluded to the same time for the same crime. Now I know that after talking about like the difference between the state and federal actions on it sounds like he's pushing sort of the idea that, I don't know, this doesn't actually sound that bad to me, because if you've got a laws that are coming from, say, all the way up the top of the Supreme Court, surely there's a component to it that would involve that idea, same time for the same crime, not necessarily exactly the same time, but in the ballpark. You couldn't have like someone in one state getting 1 year for murder while another person gets, 50 years or the death penalty. It wouldn't make sense. And but in the case of like drug usage, surely there's got to be some sort of not necessarily uniform, but some kind of collective agreement about what these things mean. I can't see there being too much difference. Does that make sense?
I get what you're saying, and maybe on a personal moralistic level, I might agree with you on that. There's one little problem with it, and that's where I say that I think he's passing the buck on. First and foremost, the policies in the 1994 crime bill, you know how I mentioned earlier that there's this whole pattern of the federal government will pass a law, and with, you know, the funding for programs and stuff will be dependent on a state's compliance with the wishes of the federal government. That's one of the things the 1994 crime bill did. It basically holds funding for programs and other things that the states want or might need or whatever. You know, it's a carrot and a stick sort of thing. You want the carrot, you obey, or you get the stick. And at the same time, sure, you're right. You know, maybe punishments and stuff for drug offenses and such should be probably communal and uniformed, but that's it. This is where me being a federalist really starts to kick in, because that's not how our system is. That's not how the federal system is supposed to operate. You've probably heard the analogy before. The United States is 50 different laboratories of different ways of doing things and trying things and testing things and experimenting. That's the whole point. Let the states be the ultimate arbiters of how they go about handling things. You know, we can discuss philosophically how the states ought to handle things, but utilizing federal force, that monopoly of violence, to beat the states into submission with a stick, that's what things like the 94 crime bill do. And that's what I have the problem with it. And that's why I say it's passing the buck, because what he is coming off and saying is that, oh, no, it wasn't the federal government who was responsible for all this terrible stuff. It's the states. Well, what is it, Joe? Is it the states have the ultimate responsibility in this? Or does the federal government have the authority to do something about it? And the answer is the federal government doesn't have the authority to do it, and the states have the responsibility to do it. Managing crime is not managing all except, I think it's specifically treason. The federal government has no constitutional authority to be involved at all in the criminal process except for that which crosses the lines of the states and treason. That's it. So, you know, if somebody is somebody is moving, so for example, all right, it doesn't work here because all the states I'm bordered with have it legal. But say somebody is in Colorado and wants to, where marijuana production is legal, and takes marijuana across the border into New Mexico, which I think it's illegal in right now. I'm not sure. First of all, they've carried an illegal substance into the state of New Mexico. It's illegal under New Mexico's law. They can be arrested. Marijuana happens to be illegal under the federal statutes. They can also be arrested and charged in a federal court. They can be charged in a federal court and a court in New Mexico. You know, the crossing the state part is something the federal government has power over. But the 1994 crime bill specifically deals with things that aren't federal crimes, but state crimes. The idea being to empower and reinforce state efforts to fight these crimes. And that's where the funding carrot stick comes in. You want the funding from the 1994 crime bill? Then you need to do what the federal government wants you to do. You see?
Yeah.
And we determine it.
Okay, so and that's why I say he's kind of passing the buck, because he's basically trying to push the blame for why the 1994 crime bill was a disaster onto the states, when it was the federal government that created the environment for the disaster to happen in the first place.
Yeah.
What happens if, for the first, second, third offense, for any crime in the criminal justice system, in the at the federal level. If you're a black man, it's the first time you committed robbery. How long would you go to jail on average? If you're a white man, how long? Black man would go to jail.
That is entirely dependent on the state, as it should be. Now, he's trying to inject race into this. But still, if New York has a minimum statute for armed robbery, and New Jersey has a different minimum statute for armed robbery, it's going to be different when a person commits armed robbery in the state of New York than a person who commits armed robbery in the state of New Jersey. He's trying to inject race into it because he's... Go ahead.
But race is protected, isn't it? No discrimination. You've got...
Yeah, you're not supposed to. But
but that's the point.
What he's basically doing here, in a way, is going into the a way of trying to hand wave away the statistics.
Yeah, but it's still making a good point. I mean, it's not.
He's making a point. If you're making a point there, that if it is if the state's laws are intentionally discriminatory, then yes, that's a fucking problem.
Yeah.
Because the 14th Amendment to the United States Constitution provides equal protection, which has been interpreted by the Supreme Court to mean that the laws of the states should apply equally on the basis of race, ethnicity, religion, sex, national origin, etc. But it does not say that it should apply equally based on history of criminal records, crime, etc.
But I think it's a bit extraneous to pick on it. I don't know. He's already they're already built their narrative of putting race into it anyway. But I think on that point there is an element of concern there that in different states there might be different attitudes, and that is, I would give him points to say that yes, that is a concern within the electorate. So
yeah, and I there's something else that I will say. It's a very, very unpopular opinion. Well, I would say, yeah, okay, it's a very unpopular expressed opinion, and that is, if a state goes about doing something in a way that you yourself do not like, there is absolutely nothing that prevents you from picking up sticks and moving to another state.
Yeah, not after you've been arrested, though.
Well, of course. Naturally that. But I'm talking about if you have an objection to the way, if you're a law-abiding citizen who has an objection to the way that the state handles.
Yeah, but you also then assume that people are fully aware of it. Like that's. Not everyone's a lawyer. Not everyone knows their rules,
and that's why I say that's why I said it's probably an unpopular expressed opinion, because I think a lot of people maybe know it in the back of their heads. It's not something that they find. It's a hard opinion to find. Sorry, it's not an opinion. It's an actual truth.
Actually, I do.
It's a hard.
I know I'm not in merit. In this case, I know it's as an outsider, or not so much being as an outsider. I got to say, I completely disagree with you there, because that's something I've often heard from Americans. It's been a very popularly expressed statement, and it is something that I personally. What was that?
People will say it, but they'll very rarely act on it, and instead they will just sit there and bitch and moan about the situation.
Well,
they won't. You have two options when there's something the state you're living in is doing something you don't like. You can fight to change it, or you can leave.
Yeah,
most people will just sit there and bitch.
Yeah, but this is something that coming from where I'm coming from here in Australia is very, very different, because I can't imagine that being a consistently good, consistently available option. Coming from here, it costs money to move. If I didn't like my state, there's no guarantee of it being any better interstate. It's not, and I can't imagine that being the same. I can't see how that would be radically different where you are. There are too many other concerns in place.
I think it's probably more relative for where you are. out here on the West Coast, because I think one of the big things that influences the efficacy of that is proximity to other other populations. It's a lot. You look at a map of the United States at night. You can see that the further west you go, it just you start to get these huge tracts of emptiness. Whereas you look at a picture of your country at night, and it's like, yeah, quite a bit of the everything except for the coast is like blank at night. And I can understand, the cost of moving in Australia has got to be astronomical simply because of the sheer distances you need to go to get anywhere.
I would actually, the biggest thing I would point to is actually employment. That's the biggest thing. There's no guarantee you'll get a job interstate. There's absolutely no.
True.
It could. There's no. You could just be exchanging one. I mean, this is something that's been suggested to me in the past, having troubles looking for IT work. People say, "Oh, just move interstate." It doesn't work that way, because if you go from this state to, say, New South Wales and go to Sydney, yeah, there's more jobs, but guess what? There's a fuckload more people trying to do it. The competition's higher. It doesn't improve your chances. And there's so in terms of my sensibilities, that's just one. There's cost of moving. That's debatable, because what I've been finding is a lot of people would actually just ditch their stuff. They just move. So you're coming down to like a plane ticket or drive or whatever you do. But it's not that easy. It's not also, it doesn't, if your state doesn't like it, if you don't like your state, who's to say that the neighboring state's going to be any different?
Of course.
So it sounds like something that's it's a very difficult one to ascertain. And there are other concerns in there, such as like you might be ditching your family and so on.
And these are all things that that concentrated decisions have to be involved in. And a lot of these things go back to what I said about before, was as far as determining personal responsibility and willingness.
But that's the thing, though. You're going to. I'd actually say this is going to an area where your personal responsibility is either lessened or it's actually redirected somewhere else, which is, I can't possibly be responsible for like state-based, the state government decisions.
Mm-hmm.
So if I move, I can't be held responsible if they suddenly change something. I also can't be responsible for, I can't be held irresponsible completely either, along with regards to everything else, as in, okay, I don't like the state, but I'm too busy working. I've got a job. I've got a family. I've got, roots here. I've got an investment in, say, buying a house, paying off a mortgage, et cetera, et cetera. I've got those responsibilities. So the state level, if something the state doesn't like, stiff shit, because it's got to be bad enough to override my other responsibilities. So that's one of the things that stands out to me. That's what it's saying. There are more concerns.
It's the conundrum of the small man. You and I both are respectively only one person out of many.
Well, actually, no. I'm not necessarily the small man. I'm talking about it's one of many concerns. One of many things to be responsible about.
Mm-hmm.
And it could well be that. So going back to the point of like the crime, if I don't know if there's any. Actually, there are some differences that I know of, but most of them a bit out there. But there are, like I could be here in my state. We have laws against like organized crime groups. It's actually illegal to be part of like a group that's considered to be organized criminals.
Yep, as it is here.
And so, say I were to join my local, it's actually to be associated with. Take this as a hypothetical, because I'm probably not,
Go ahead. Go ahead. Word it how you will. I'll understand it, and I'm sure our audience will understand it.
Yeah, but say I get involved in some group, a hobby group or something, and it turns out to be doing something extremely illegal.
Mm-hmm.
How can I be held responsible for that problem. How can I be held responsible if I didn't know anything about it? Now, technically, that can still be enforced. So,
I think I know what you mean.
yeah. So it's not. I think the responsibility it tends to branch off into bigger factors. I think going back to the point of like if there is some kind of racial difference in how people are treated in a state, maybe they don't know about it. I mean, back in the day of Jim Crow laws and other things, well, you sure as hell knew about it because it was pretty obvious. But there might be something, some kind of issue pops up where maybe people actually are being discriminated. And from what I've heard, there are a few places in America where this sort of not police brutality, but bias against black people has actually been proven. It's, to my knowledge, there's only, I think, 2 places off the top of my head. I think it's Baltimore and parts of Chicago, although in the latter, that's also
Oh, no, you're not wrong about
sociological.
Chicago.
Yeah, so there, I can't, there might be other ways. They're kind of obvious, though, from what I've heard, because a police officer's been able to come out and describe what happens. But in others, there may be an issue that arises, and when that arises, there should be some sort of a means for someone to take action, or at least have it appealed, and so forth.
Possibly.
Yeah,
I don't disagree with
So
you. I
still-
think I know what you're trying to. I think I know what you're kind of trying to get to, and it's. I don't know. Maybe to some extent, I'm a bit harsher on this than some people because a month after, not even kidding, like 1 month and 4 days after I turned 18 years old, I packed pretty much everything I owned into 2 bags and flew from Pennsylvania to California all by myself. I picked up sticks and just left. And that's a huge thing to do. That's a really, really difficult thing to even just emotionally and mentally do. Let alone, the physicality of it and all of the other parts that go into it. And, at 18 years old, I was an absolute fucking moron. The way I went about doing it, the reasons I did it, all that. Not going to go into that here. That's absolutely unimportant. But the point is, so maybe I'm a little clouded on it because I'm also used to just moving around a lot in my life, and I'm used to just picking up and moving. While I grew up and spent virtually my entire life up until the age of 18, there was a 10-month period I lived in Massachusetts, but I was like a toddler. I still moved around a lot within the area that I called home. I never really knew stability until I bought my house. Almost 8 years ago. So maybe I'm a little clouded on that one. I'm used to being, all right, shit's getting bad, pick up, move. I'm used to being a little bit more nomadic than some people are.
What's determined where you move as well? What is determined where you move? Are you following family around, or
it's been a variety of things over the years. I didn't follow family when I came across the country. Where I've kind of moved since has typically been financial for quite a bit of it. And of course, when you're a kid, it's because of family, because you go where mom goes. Or for me it was mom because my dad was dead. So, I go where mom goes because I'm a kid. But since then it's kind of been family. So, I've kind of moved where family and all that sort of thing. I've tried to stay close to family, but I'm also of the mind that, like, where I live right now, my mom and a great aunt of mine are the only family I have in the area. The only family I have in, I want to say, 900 miles distance. And the closest family that's within that, the 800-mile range is all down in Southern California, and there's no way in fucking hell if I was to move, I would ever be moving to Southern California. I lived down there for 2 years. I graduated from high school from there. I am not moving down to that place ever again. It's too goddamn hot. It's too goddamn dry, and there's way too many fucking people, and it's an absolute nightmare politically. So other than that, if I was to move anywhere, I'm kind of look at it as I'm at a position where the world's my oyster, kind of, in its own way, as far as where I would choose to move. Now, you and I have talked about this before. I don't want to go into this on stream, but, I've told you what I would like to do, that kind of deal. But I've already explained all that to you. There would still be a deep family tie to things that I do, but I'm not tied to where... Truth be told, if I was to leave this town, this area where I am now, the thing that would hurt the most would be that I've got a lot of great friends here. I've built bonds and such that would be difficult to leave. But I'm also not afraid to find greener pastures, if you will. I've done it so much in my life. And the close friends I've got here, they've grown up and lived pretty much their whole lives here. And I can understand why it might be a much greater fear and a deeper plunge for them to leave the area. It's hard. Yeah. I know it's hard. I sympathize with it. And I don't want to leave, I don't want to leave my friend. I wouldn't want to leave my friends or something like that. But I also would understand if they were to leave the area, that they would be seeking a better future for themselves. And that's kind of what I always try to tell people is, do what you have to do to make your life better. And if you're worried about how I would think of you in your decision making on that, don't. Because the thing I want most for you is for you to do well and be happy. And hey, in this wonderful age of the internet, this wonderful age of digital communication, it's not like we would lose friendship. I mean, hell, look at you and I, partners on YouTube. You're in Adelaide, Australia, and I'm here in Northern California. Could you find two further apart people?
I think there's a lot more complicated. I mean, you and I might tear each other's heads off if we met in person, or...
Who knows?
I mean, I had one friend, we talked a lot in person and on the internet. He didn't move interstate. He didn't move internationally. He moved to the other side of town, and that radically changed the way we got along.
Yeah, that can.
Largely just stemmed from just different habits and different just different timetables.
It depends on a lot of things. But I'm hoping my point's at least coming across kind of clear. It's just, people, I encourage people and want people to do what they need to do to better themselves. And ultimately, and I always feel that I will be most impressed and pleased and happy when you have done the things you need to do to make yourself happy.
Yeah. I'd very much agree with that, but I think that
it's hard.
Point of contention between the two of us is, I think I just would look at a lot of different details, a lot of different considerations, and
well, maybe it might not be as much of an impasse there. It might be more that I've just not really, I'm just not willing to express some of those right in this format.
Yeah.
Anyway, we've gone way off fucking base here.
Yeah. Actually, I reckon I've had enough of listening to Joe.
Yeah.
I got to go soon anyway.
All right. So what I'm going to do is, since you've got control over the Watch Together room, why don't you clear the playlist? Because I'm going to keep the source for Watch Together stored in OBS. So that way, whenever we use it in the future, it should be easier to just pop, done, good to go.
Yeah.
However, in the
Yeah, we're
meantime,
ready.
I'm going to go ahead and transition us out of that. And I don't know, you think we might be good to pass for the night? Because, damn, we've gone for over 2 hours tonight.
Yeah. I think there's a lot we could talk about. That a lot of rabbit holes to go down to.
Oh, gods, yes.
Sorry.
Oh,
Yeah,
gods, yes.
It's probably a good thing we didn't watch the full video. We'd still be going. And we'd only be probably a tenth of the way into it.
Yeah.
So what do you reckon? What do you reckon as a sort of concluding remark on it, on what's going on here and what your impressions are from the clips?
Well, kind of what I said at the start. Joe just gives a bunch of fucking non-answers.
Yeah.
It's just empty fluff. It's politispeak. It's the, here's the facts, here's the, here's the rehearsed shit. And it's like, Joe, that's this close to the election. That's not what people want to hear. And not the way, okay, even if that was typically what people wanted to hear, everyone knows that 2016 just chucked a giant fucking spanner into the cogs of our electoral system and how elections are run. Trump being the populist candidate that he is. You can't just sit there and give the the sanitized, rehearsed politispeak lines to people anymore. People don't want to hear that. People want to hear validation for the candidates. They want to hear punches and arguments against their opposition. And when you're asked a direct question, people want direct answers. And I think one of the few things I think the internet's done a good job at is people have gotten more and more fed up with dodging questions. You there, my dude?
Hey.
Mm-hmm. Well, okay, Radio Brain's away for a few moments, so I have to entertain you people with some kind of a jig or a dance.
Nope, I'm back again.
Oh,
just
okay.
moving
Thank
past
God, no one
noise,
wants to see me. No one wants to see me dance. I can't.
Now we're gonna have to see you dance to find out how bad it is.
Oh, it's bad. It's really, really bad.
Oh, you could go viral back in the day or something like that.
There are epileptic patients that dance better than I do.
Yeah. But yeah, my overall impression is that town hall is basically a sleight of hand magic trick. I think that because the voters of the three we watched, two of them were ex-Trump, two of them voted for Trump. One of them seemed to imply that he hadn't voted or might not vote. And they all look cranky too. And even with that first guy, even if he did maybe look friendly with them afterwards, maybe that's their editing of it. Maybe he just out of politeness went and spoke to them or whatever. I don't know. I'd have to see it, but
that's why I said check a look at Andrew's video on Run, Don't Walk.
Yeah, but overall, it looks like they're hostile questions, very, very loaded, and they actually come across as things that you would actually expect them not to ask him. And
well,
it seems like the
questions are all the questions are pre-screened.
No. I mean, these are the kind of things that you would expect to be screened out. That's what it came across to me.
All right, then.
And
well, I didn't necessarily get that impression, but I can see
they're the tricky questions that people are thinking of, and I reckon it's a sleight of hand trick to try and trick people, like what they perceive as swing voters, into thinking Joe's doing okay. Right? I think that's all it was. It's just a smoke and mirrors trick, and they know that they're aiming for those people in the middle, and they've got nothing else. All they've got is a bluff, whereas Trump has got a big list of things that he could bring out, which are being brought out, such as in discrediting Joe through the emails and the laptop and so on and so forth, plus some of the things he said during the debate, where he was able to basically just, there are two things he said. One was, I ran because of you, because you're corrupt, and the other one was, why didn't you do something earlier? Which are two pretty big hits against him. And I think a lot of swing voters would be turned on by that. So I think it's just a charade. It's a magic trick. They've got nothing else to work with.
Yeah, that's possible. Hopefully we'll be able to actually run the whole of the Trump live stream. I will test it to see if we can embed the CBS or NBC link before we do that. I'm thinking that would be something we could do later this week.
Yep.
And no, I do think a lot of just Biden is just, like I said, it just smells like the pre-rehearsed politispeak, and he is the politispeak candidate.
Not even good politispeak. That's, as I keep saying,
Well,
it's 101 level of basic.
It would be good. It would be good if this was something like the 2004 election, Bush and Kerry.
No, I don't mean good as in a good play or good things to say. I just mean good as in well executed, sophisticated enough to be taken seriously, that sort of thing. Like good effort, not good quality of outcome.
I get what you mean.
Yeah, that's what I mean. It's like I said at the beginning. It's like dot points. It's like the bare amount they could get him to memorize.
Yeah, and then there's also the added element of the fact that, like I'd said a few moments ago, and you would but that's right before you went AFK for a moment. People don't, one of the few things social media and internet has done a really good job with is that people seem to have gotten more and more impatient with dodging the question and these nothing answers from politicians.
Yes.
Like, just as a footnote, for anyone who's still watching or something like that, when we get around to watching the Trump town hall, if we're able to actually watch the whole thing and not just the clips, I saw the first, I think 3 questions that were asked to him, and his answers, in my opinion, were absolutely abysmal. They were dodges, they were just empty statistical politispeak, they were your standard Trump fluff speak. They weren't direct answers to the questions of the people who asked him, and it pissed me off. I want direct...
When was this?
Biden and Trump did their town halls on the same day at the same time, and the left was.
So you're talking about Trump's town hall, because I got a very different.
Well, the first 3 questions he was asked, they were all like COVID related, and aside from the fact that the moderator was just dueling with him all the time, and she had that smug fucking look on her face the whole damn time. I mean, he was in I do think the deck was stacked against him to an extent there, but his first few questions, and again, we'll obviously we'll cover it when we do, we'll cross that bridge when we get there. I think from what I saw, it was just, I was not impressed with his answers to the first 3. I was actually agitated, and maybe it's because when it comes to the COVID shit, the types of stuff people are asking questions about, the answers that he gave just aren't answers to the questions I think the people are asking. And I'm the kind of person who, if I was to ask a politician a direct question, which I've done before, and get a nothing answer, I get pissed off.
I think most people end up doing it anyway.
Exactly, because if you don't get a clear answer, if you don't get a direct answer, if you get a dodge, why wouldn't you be pissed off? It's a point blank question, and you get a shotgun blast into the air as an answer. Nobody wants that. There's a reason why you ask a direct question, because you want a direct answer. It's not like getting up and saying, "Hey, what's your favorite color?" And then I got up and say, "Hey, what's your favorite color?" And I said, "Well, green's all right. At the same time, yellow's kind of okay." And then red. You have to kind of consider, what colors are work together. Then you have to take into consideration, well, see, so here's the stats and the numbers on the programs we set up to try to determine colors. It's like, that's not an answer. I asked you what your favorite fucking color is.
Yeah, I see what you mean.
Which, by the way, is green. The only correct answer is green.
Well, red's out of the question, so we know what that means.
It's a shame,
oh, hang on, no, it's Republican.
Red is a beautiful color. The problem is those fuckers ruined it.
Yeah, it comes with a lot of yellow and hammers and sickles and shit.
Which on their own are great tools. You put them together and those fuckers ruin it.
Well, if they'd actually used them instead of putting them on a flag.
Oh, no. They use them.
Bit of a swipe. They're lazy.
No. They use them. Hammers are useful for smashing fingers, and sickles are great for slitting throats.
Ooh.
You use the hammer to break bones, and you use the sickle to slash the flesh. See? Remember, I think it's Mozambique.
Well, why bother when you can just start?
I believe it's the communist state that formed Mozambique even has an AK-47 on their flag. See, commie tools get a gun is a great implement. It's an excellent tool for hunting. It's an excellent tool for self-defense. And it's clearly a widely used means of enforcing communist revolutions. Anyway, thank you for joining us tonight, everybody. We are the Prometheans. I am Izaran, and
I'm Radio Brain. Thanks a lot.
We will try to be back sometime this week to hopefully cover the Trump's Townhall, and hopefully we won't go off on as many wild tangents. It'll probably be more of our standard approach to debates where we're quiet. And what do you think? Maybe if we're able to actually stream the debate, do you think it's something where we should just like run it and just talk over?
No, I reckon go hog wild. Go hog wild. Just try and hone it in a bit. That's all.
Alrighty.
I reckon it's not live. It's not the.
Yeah.
It's a good opportunity to tear it apart.
Yeah, that'd be good. That might actually be a bit longer one if we can actually get the full video, not the clips. So everybody have a good evening. And we'll catch you later this week sometime, hopefully, or maybe next weekend. And, or what, are we still going to go forward with, maybe, going live for the election? Because it'll be morning and afternoon for you. I'll be the one who'll be suffering.
Yeah, that would actually be a good idea because of, just how, though, exactly, it's not up in the air, I reckon. Well, we can't do the whole day. Or maybe we should.
We could. I mean, I watched the elections from like 6 p.m. my time on, and I will continue, and I will sit there and watch the whole fucking thing.
Yeah.
So actually, that before we cut the feed, I was actually going to say, if we go ahead and do the live, I was actually thinking we might maybe think about like having, because it'll be a huge long block of time, having like potentially some people hop in for an hour or so, friends of, associates of yours, associates of mine, that kind of deal, just to join us for segments to keep, to break up some of the monotony.
Yeah.
Because, there's only so much it's just the two of us sitting there yammering on while people watch. Why not have the crowd, why not have the audience get involved, right?
Yep.
All right, we'll figure out how to work that out. Ladies and gentlemen, have a good evening. And
there you go.